All right. Hey there. It's Stacy Santiago.
Hi, how are
Hi.
you?
It is Sarah with me. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for talking with me today. We are sharing Sarah's story, a little bit about where she was before coming in to do this career transformation work and about where she is now, so that the more you can see that, hey, this is so similar to what you're going through and there is so much hope for you on the other side. The more you can see that, I know, the easier it is sometimes to understand what it's like to go through this, and the just amazing kind of wake up to life and invaluable results on the other side.
Right.
So thank you, Sarah, for sharing, and we
Of
will
course. Of
dive
course.
right in. So tell me, for you, Sarah, before you started this, what was going on in your life in terms of the pain and the challenges?
Oh, so why I found you actually right before my birthday. And anytime going into my birthday, I am just kind of dreading it because I always beat myself up about like another wasted year. I didn't do everything that I wanted to do. And so it was my life was not great in any really in any of the aspects, whether it was my health, my mental health, emotional health, anything like that. And it was impacting the relationships that I did have, and then it was also preventing me from forming new relationships or even working on a better relationship with myself or even working forward with my work. It just across the board really just miserable. Um, and then with that, like it just I didn't like myself. I didn't wake up in the morning being like, I'm happy to be here. I love who I am. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, another day. Okay, let's do this. And so that it was just, it wasn't a way I wanted to live. I didn't want to look back and say, wow, I just kind of survived those years. Like instead of thriving, actually, is a good way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. And for you, I know it was really hard for you both trying to get to sleep tonight and waking up in the morning to go and do that work. What did you find the hardest about trying to have peace?
um, like trying to fix like my sleeping and kind of shutting down and waking up being excited about the morning.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of that was once I'd signed up with you and going through, I don't remember which module it is where you talk about setting up your morning and your evening routine. It was one of those things where my evening routine was actually something that I was able to develop really quickly. Like I knew what I wanted to do, I knew what helped me wind down. It was just making sure that I set that bedtime for myself and that I was kind of strict with myself until I got into that habit. It was one of those things where I would just like just keep watching TV. Oh, another show. And then all of a sudden it's 2 a.m.
Mm.
and I'm going to be exhausted no matter what in the morning. It took me a longer to figure out a morning routine. And it's something that I still tweak today just because sometimes something I'm like, I don't like really doing this. Let me try something new. Because I'm also just generally not a morning person. And so I really had to find things that I would look forward to doing in the morning. And so like I invested like in really, really amazing coffee so I can enjoy like my coffee in the morning. Since we're not really going out to Starbucks or anything right now. And now it's cold here in Sacramento, but it's super sunny and bright outside. And so I'll go out with my dog in the morning. I'll drink my coffee, kind of just sit there and be quiet instead of having to jump into all the noise of the day. Like I'm not checking my phone, I'm not touching social media. Like it's just me being me, allowing myself to exist without
Yeah.
any noise. And so it's really, as it's progressed, as I've developed it more, it's become really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And it's something that I look forward to in the morning. And it's also something where I feel it's impactful for the rest of my day because I'm starting my day off in a way that's for me. And I guess maybe just even being a little selfish with myself, and putting myself first. And so then, even if my work day is kind of, I still have that good tone that I've set the day out. So I'm
Yeah.
setting my day out up here instead of starting it here. And so I feel like that helps in the long term, even if the day just doesn't turn out to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be just a night and day difference, coming from a place of exhaustion and dread for what you're going to sit through for the next 8 to 9 hours versus, oh wait, I have control over this and I can set these thoughts and these behaviors that actually fill my cup and help me sustain in the emotional state that I want, no matter what's going on around me.
Exactly.
It's just huge.
Exactly.
Well, and tell me more about the lack of fulfillment with the job too. I mean, there was just so much emptiness knowing that that's not where you want to be. Tell me about what that dissatisfaction with your job was like.
It was just it was going through the motions, honestly, and just like I was saying earlier, just kind of surviving, making it through the day. And it was one of those things where, like, in the morning, I was waking up at the very, very, very last minute before I had to get on and start working because I just didn't want to face the day. And so then I'm making it through the day. I'm not. I mean, I'm doing my job and whatnot, showing up and fulfilling all those, checking all those boxes. But then at the end of the day, I'm so emotionally exhausted from just dreading this and being just having my shoulders up here, being all tensed up and whatnot. And that I couldn't spend those hours in the evening, like winding down and truly appreciating my time and working on myself, whatever it was that I wanted to do. And so it just kind of was this awful cycle that I was in where I just was not ever feeling good. Like I was just always just existing and was one of those things where there were times where it just really, really dark place because I mean, you don't have anything to look forward to. Like, you're not enjoying your days, and so you feel like you're just wasting your time, and that just wears on you. And so it was one of those things where it just put me in a really awful place and a really deep place that I had to dig really deep to get out of.
Yeah. And may I ask too, is what were some of those really hard thoughts and beliefs about yourself that ran through your mind the most?
Oof. Um, I think the big one we always came back to when we were working together was my belief that I wasn't good enough. Like that was ingrained from very, very young. And no matter what I did, it wasn't enough. I wasn't going to get that gold star, that praise from my family. And so that was deeply, deeply ingrained in me that I didn't deserve a better life. Like that this was as good as it's going to get. So I might as well just suck it up and keep moving forward. Like, and it's also one of those things ingrained in me from a young age is that, well, you have a job. Like so many people aren't getting paid or don't have health insurance or don't have a 401k, which granted, it's a blessing and I'm very grateful for. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I should have to suck it up and be miserable the entire time. And that was the mindset that I was still in was like, I should be grateful that at least I have this instead of thinking about, well, what else can I have? Or what else can I do for myself so that I'm living like what you say in abundance instead of just surviving or being a victim of my own life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, and tell me this, how did you know you were ready? What made you decide I cannot do this anymore? I want to get help?
Um, Actually, it was weird timing because I think I found you through Career Contessa.
Mhm.
Yes, I think several of us did. And it was one of those things where it was at work and I like set a block time on my calendar so I could attend this live instead of like trying to set up time to rewatch it. And you just were so like you kind of I've told you to you before, like talking to you afterwards, like I'm kind of on a high for a while. Like you
Mhm.
have that about you. And so it's one of those things, and you said something along the lines of that you don't have problems. Like sometimes there's things that you have to work through and whatnot, but you don't have big, heavy problems. And I was like, wait, I want that. I was like, is this a thing? Like, how do I get that? And so that right there, like that, even that just little snippet from that conversation and that with Kurt Contessa, like I was like, oh, okay, well, let's talk more about that. And then coming into it was a big birthday for me that November. And just not wanting to be in the same place the following year and being like, maybe next year will be better. Because I knew if I tried to do it on my own, it wouldn't happen. The the accountability and the support wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you come to recognize the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to somehow be different.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay. So tell me about what you discovered along the way in this coaching journey.
Discovered about myself.
Mhm.
Um, Well, so you have us kind of pick ourselves like so I'm courageous. I'm courageous Sarah. And so tapping back into that and remembering who that girl was back when she didn't have all of those constraints on her, didn't have to fight against the I'm not good enough mentality, or didn't even kind of factor that in yet. Like we're talking like really young. Um, revisiting her or getting back to her was just, it was scary exciting. Like you'd ask me how things are going and I'm like, it's scary exciting because it is, you're going somewhere that's super uncomfortable, but at the same time, like you're seeing the forward motion, you're seeing that progress that's being made. And so that's exciting because you can see that there's something new on the horizon. It was one of those things, I think from one of our very, very early calls that you were talking about how I've been living in this room that's just all gray. And that as I'm working on myself, like it starts bringing the color back. And like even like in our work going back and forth, when you would add notes, like by the end of the time the document was done, like there'd be like 8 or 9 different colors, like and that was kind of just like splashing into my life because I didn't realize how much, like even my own life was gray, because like I would always be like in gray or in black and just kind of hiding myself like that. Whereas now, like, I mean, I'm going to be a jewel toned colored person the rest of my life, but adding color back in is just, it's fixing that room in myself. And then it's also actually implementing it in my real life. Like it shows up in ways you don't expect.
Yes. Oh, wow. I love that. Okay, so tell me about this. Tell me about some of the things that you have gained, some of these outcomes, and you can speak both to the mindset and the beliefs about yourself, the way that you're showing up, and then also go to the career direction side of it as well, and what you have laid out for yourself as a timeline going forward.
Okay. So the mindset piece, it was really for me, obviously about rebuilding my mindset. Actually, not even rebuilding it, starting from scratch and building a mindset that's positive for myself. And part of it that I really took away was having that toolbox. Because not every day is going to be perfect. Like it's building a muscle, you've said. And so some days you're really crushing it, and then other days your muscle's just like, I'm kind of tired today. And so having that toolkit and knowing how to kind of re rework my thoughts, reprogram, and make it so that I'm not always talking so negatively to myself. And then things that I wouldn't even think about doing, like the 50 stack of awesome, or having my that playlist that you have us put together, like the impact, like you love music, but the impact of having a playlist that just makes you want to like jump around, you don't realize that until you have it. And so having like tools like that, and then also having like support from you and Brooke was fantastic. And then also it gave me the confidence to reach out when I needed something from somebody else. Like reach out and tell my friend, you know what, I'm having a hard day today. Let's FaceTime. Let me see your little kid. Like I haven't met her son yet. And I'm like, let me talk to little Ben. And then with work, it made me, was something where I always felt like I wanted to do something more. I wanted to make a lasting impression, but I also didn't want to be tied to a desk. I wanted to have that independence, and I wanted to kind of be responsible for the product that I put out there instead of working towards something, but having somebody actually truly own it besides myself. Um, and so with that, it was one of those things where we're working through the blueprint and kind of doing the research on yourself and whatnot. And you and Brooke will give me fantastic feedback. And it was one of those things where like I narrowed it down. Like I knew I wanted to consult so that I could kind of go into different places and I wasn't stuck with one employer, and I could kind of pick and choose my clients and where I was. And then also gave me the flexibility in regards to, do I want to stay based in California? Do I want to end up closer to my best friend and her son in Chicago? Like, where do I want to end up, sort of thing. And so it kind of triggered two things for me. One, reminding me my love of global healthcare policy and wanting to make a change in regards to that, so that people had access to the care that they needed and they had that support and whatnot. And then also that translates into a business idea, that it was kind of one of those aha moments. And because it's one of those things where previously I never would have thought of myself as, oh, I could be a business owner, I could work for myself. I'd be like, no, that's for other people. I don't have that kind of courage. Like that's just not me. I need to have a real job, a real like 401k. I need to have real insurance. Um, and so having those two light bulbs go on was just, I don't know. But the first time, honestly, like I kind of started to land on this business idea, I kind of like started to cry, actually. And it was one of those things I was like, why am I crying? And then I was like, wow, I actually feel excited about something. Like it'd been so long work-wise in that realm where I had felt any kind of passion or excitement, or this could be great for me. And so that alone is just huge.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So tell me about, oh, and tell me about this too, because I love it, exploring the ripple effect of this. How have you shown up differently now in relationships, and how have people noticed that?
It was something where I could feel better about myself, and I knew that, and it was until my best friend noticed it, and she's like, "You're really different lately," and where I didn't realize how different I was presenting myself until, like, somebody else kind of points it out to you. And she was like, "You are being more assertive in regards to, I don't like this, I don't want to do this," or "Yes, this is something I like." And she's like, "I also haven't talked about being excited with something in so long." Like, I mean, she's known me since we were 18. And so she's like, "You are more awake." It's like, it's kind of how she put it. She was like, "You are more like how you were when you were younger, before like everything just started weighing down and whatnot." And so that just showing up obviously in my friendship with that. And then also I noticed with work, it um even though like some days will be frustrating or whatnot, it helped me work with other people better because I wasn't always so just dark and angry and frustrated all the time, because I knew that with myself, I had control over my mindset and what I wanted. And I knew what I was working towards outside of just this job that I have right now. And so I noticed that I wasn't saying, "Oh, I hate my job," all the time. Like I wasn't engaging it with people who previously I'd kind of be venting with all the time. Like I would just, kind of just pick people who I knew would be cheerleaders for me or wouldn't be super negative, because I didn't want to slide back into that. And so I definitely, I'd say with my friendships and then with my work relationships, I know, I mean, with my parents, it's always going to be an evolving thing there, but also being able to have the strength to put in those boundaries, I've noticed has been a big thing for me, and being like, this doesn't work for me, because previously I'd just be like, okay, whatever everybody else wants, like, sure, why not? And so that, at least with them, is being able to put in those boundaries and enforce that has been huge for me.
Wow. Okay, so I'm hearing here you have embraced courageous Sarah, and you're showing
Mhm.
up as her. You're showing up confident. You're showing up, well, the opposite of dark and heavy, right? Light, perhaps optimistic, steady. The self talk in your head is no longer constantly toxic and poisonous. That's been lifted. It's a place of hope and of power and excitement about what you can create.
Hmm.
It's about the color coming back into your life, feeling, as your friend said, alive. It's like you woke up. And it's
Hmm.
having that stability and that control over how you create, how you feel each day, no matter what's going on around you. And
Hmm.
then having that clarity of what looks to be just an amazing career fit for you going forward, that's going to allow you to use all of your skills in your genius zone and have that location and time flexibility that you want. It's quite brilliant. And so you've got this clear path forward, and you're no longer just sitting there wasting life and time. And I'd bet that next year's birthday is going to be pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, it is. And that really, that hits it all the nail on the head with that. And it's one of those things where it's just, I look back and I try very hard not to beat myself up anymore. We talked about that, like kind of just forgiving previous Sarah. We'll call it previous Sarah.
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where I've noticed that if I'm kind of bringing up something that happened like 10 years ago, which truly doesn't matter, doesn't impact my day to day anymore, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. That's not today's news. Like, and so just even doing that is so huge for me, because normally before I would just be sitting in that and just being like, oh, that one time I said that one thing, let's beat myself up about it again and again. And so that alone is just huge. But yeah, the rest of what you said really hits the nail on the head.
Yeah. So, why for you, Sarah? I mean, why was investing in yourself and doing this work worth it for you?
Oh, man. I mean, with that, honestly, it comes back to not wanting to be a victim of my own life. Like, I didn't want to look back and be like, well, you didn't do anything you dreamt about. Like, you didn't even dream anymore. Like, you just kind of functioned through life. And so that was a big driver, and not wanting to continue to just dread coming up on my birthday every year. Because that, I mean, I feel like that signifies a new year more than like New Year's Eve does. And so just that alone, not wanting to look back on my life and be like, well, you wasted it, and not wanting to feel like I'm a victim of what happens around me, instead of being like, I am in charge. Like, I'm making these decisions. I'm choosing to be happy. I'm choosing to live in abundance. I am excited for this new self, my new self, and all of that. Like that, that is what I needed. That is what I wanted. I didn't want to sleepwalk through my life anymore. And getting that help and getting those tools and that mindset to work on my mindset, and fix that and strengthen that muscle, but then also getting the guidance in regards to work and being able to find what fits me and what fits my values and what I want. Like that alone, like I would never have been able to come to that on my own. Like it wouldn't have been, that light bulb would not have gone off. And so that just, that's huge. That really, really is huge. I don't know if I could even put it into words, like how big that is and how worth it that is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's everything. It's everything. Changes the course of your life and the direction you'll go in.
Mhm.
I love it. So when you think about people who may be watching this and who are struggling in a very similar situation, same type of pain that you were in, what advice do you have for them about doing this work?
Well, taking the leap is the biggest thing. Like it's one of those things where it's never going to be a good time. Like you're never going to feel like you're ready to do the work. You just have to wake up one day and be like, this doesn't work for me anymore. I'm going to commit to myself. I'm going to make that time for myself, and then also be prepared that it's emotional work. Like it is truly work, but it's beneficial work. It's one of those things where in the 10-week course that I got from you, or that I went through with you, was more beneficial and moved me further than the years of therapy previously. And so with that, that's also something people think about, is that, especially in regards to like cost and whatnot, they're going to be, it's always a concern for people. But if you think about it, at least for me, like, I mean, I started going to therapy in my early 20s. If I calculated how much I paid over the years and didn't really make a ton of progress versus what I paid for this program, like it's ridiculous, like how much you get for the amount that you pay. And so with that, and then also you get a support system, and having that, having you and having Brooke, and then even having the other women that are part of the group, like it's amazing because you aren't being judged. Like, nobody's going to think, oh, that's a ridiculous idea. Why is she thinking that? And then you also know that through that, like you have people who will be your cheerleaders. Like I made a friend through this group who actually ends up working at the same company that I do. And so we check in with each other and we cheerlead each other. And like she had a job interview recently. And so we're kind of like pumping her up for that. And so having that and bringing that, with me from outside of the program is just really awesome. Another takeaway that I didn't even expect at all. And so I think the biggest thing would be, it's time to choose yourself. Like, you've been putting either other people in front of you, or you've been trying to just function through life, and that's not what we're here for. Like, and I think it was one of those things where it's being able to accept that I'm enough. And then also what you said, that God doesn't make junk,
Yeah.
which I love that. I love that phrase. Like, I am worthy of abundance, and I choose to be in abundance, and being able to gain that and believe that, like that alone, like that's worth all of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. Thank you so much for sharing all of this, Sarah.
Of
I
course.
I love just this incalculable progress that you've made from point A to point Z, and how that is continuing to expand your fulfillment and your potential, and just giving you that full ability to design all of that and to have what you deserve, what you're capable of going forward.
Mm.
I just love that. And thank you so much for sharing this story, because it's going to help a lot of people.
Oh, of course, definitely. I'm glad to do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much. And we will talk again very soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.